Before we begin, how are you feeling today? I hope you're okay and taking care of yourself. If today was a bad day, I'm glad you're here. Take a deep breath. This moment is yours. Ready? Let's begin. It always starts with something small. A friend request from a name you don't recognize. A photo you don't remember being in. A memory notification that feels edited. You scroll past it, maybe smile, maybe shake your head. You move on. But what if the platform didn't move on with you? We live in a world where so much of who we are exists online. Our routines, our reflections, our relationships, they're uploaded, archived, and resurfaced again and again, long after we've forgotten them. Facebook, once just a place for parties and pokes, has become something stranger, something that lingers, something that remembers more than you do. In the stories you're about to hear, people encountered the digital version of their lives turning against them. Not loudly, not violently, but in quiet, creeping ways. A tag from the grave, a live stream that no one started, a group you never joined but can't escape. These are not just social media glitches. They are moments where reality and memory become twisted by the very systems designed to preserve them. Each of these 8 stories is based on real fears. Fears of being watched, of losing control, of being remembered wrong. They come from the spaces where technology blurs into identity, and where identity becomes editable. So if you're still logged in, still scrolling, still convinced that you're the one in control of what you share, this is your warning. You've been tagged. You just don't know what tagged you yet. We begin not with horror in the obvious places, but in the hallway of a modest apartment. A 3rd floor walk-up, where silence echoes louder than footsteps, and where privacy becomes a fragile illusion. The first story reminds us that not all friend requests come from people who want to be our friends. Sometimes they come from those who already know too much. Story 1. My neighbor sent a friend request. I moved in a modest apartment building in Harlem after a long stretch of living out of my car. It wasn't fancy. 3rd floor walk-up, peeling paint and radiators that clicked through the night. But it was mine. There was something comforting about the structure of it, the way the street below hummed with familiar noises. Distant sirens, corner store radios, kids yelling at one another in the late afternoon. I kept to myself mostly. My job was remote, and I preferred my own company. I only ever really interacted with the lady who lived across the hall, Miss Denise, who wore lavender perfume and called everyone baby. One night, while scrolling through Facebook on my phone and waiting for laundry to finish, I noticed a new friend request. The profile picture was a blurry shot of someone standing in the hallway. My hallway. The background was unmistakable. The old fire extinguisher mounted next to the dented elevator door. The name on the account was just Jay. No mutual friends, no posts, just the request and the picture. I stared at it longer than I should have. Maybe someone in the building. Maybe a neighbor being weird. Maybe nothing. I clicked ignore, dropped my phone, and didn't think about it again until the next night. I woke up around 2:43 a.m. to the sound of my phone vibrating softly on the nightstand. A message. I expected it to be spam, or maybe one of those desperate exes who always texted after dark, but it was from Jay. Just 2 words. Nice pajamas. I sat upright instantly. My heart punched against my ribs. I turned my head to the window. Curtains drawn. Deadbolt locked. I walked the apartment, checking every room, even the closet. Nothing. I looked again at the message and clicked the profile. It was gone. The entire account had disappeared. I wanted to believe it was some kind of glitch, or maybe someone playing a sick joke, but I couldn't stop thinking about that hallway, about the photo, about how my front door had a mail slot wide enough to slide a phone through if someone wanted to take a picture inside. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The following morning, I installed a camera above my door. It connected to my phone. Nothing fancy, just enough to feel like I had some control. But the feeling didn't go away. Every sound in the hallway made me tense. Every time the elevator dinged, I flinched. A week later, I came home from a walk and noticed something strange. My Facebook had logged me out. I typed my password, but it said it was incorrect. I requested a reset and found that my recovery email had been changed. I spent the next hour on support chat trying to regain access. When I finally got back in, I discovered someone had posted a photo of me sleeping, taken from my bedroom doorway. The caption read, "She sleeps like an angel." No one had reacted to it. No likes, no comments. But the timestamp was from only 15 minutes earlier. My body went cold. That meant the photo had just been taken. I hadn't locked the door when I stepped out for my walk. The police came, took a statement, and told me the same thing they always tell people like me. People with no evidence and too many questions. Change your passwords. Keep your door locked. Let us know if it happens again. I never saw anyone unusual in the building. The hallway camera showed no faces, only shadows. Once, it caught a figure standing outside my door at 4 a.m., back turned to the lens, unmoving for 13 minutes before disappearing back down the stairs. I showed it to the landlord. He shrugged and said, "This is New York." The friend request didn't stop. Different names, different photos, all blurry, all familiar places in the background. My front steps, the bodega I went to every Sunday, the laundromat where I once cried silently into a dryer while watching a shirt spin. Whoever this was, they weren't just watching, they were studying. The most terrifying thing wasn't the invasion, it was the precision. Whoever was behind it knew me, my routines, my habits, my weaknesses. They never broke in, they never stole anything, they just watched and let me know they were watching. Eventually I moved, gave notice, packed quickly, left furniture behind. I found a new apartment in a different borough, new locks, new Wi-Fi, new everything. I deleted Facebook, blocked every old contact, even changed my name on my lease. But the first night in my new place, I got a friend request on Instagram. No profile photo, no followers, just a message. "Miss Denise says hi." I felt my knees give out as I sank to the floor. I hadn't told anyone where I was moving, not even Denise. I hadn't even posted a goodbye. But someone knew. People think these platforms are just apps, that they're tools, that they're fun. But they forget they're doors. And every post, every tag, every photo with your street number half visible in the background, that's a key. And sometimes you don't know who you're handing it to. I don't share anymore. No pictures, no updates, not even a birthday message to my brother. That silence, it's the safest I've ever felt. And if you're watching this right now, scrolling through your own feed in a warm room, thinking nothing like this could ever happen to you, good. Hold on to that. But check your privacy settings anyway. Not for me, for you. Because the scariest part of my story isn't what happened, it's that it hasn't stopped. Some threats peer at us through keyholes, others wait in wide open spaces. In our next story, a road trip to the Red Cliffs of Arizona turns from peaceful escape into a photograph no one remembers posing for. A picture that shouldn't exist, and a memory that starts rewriting itself before anyone can look away. Story 2. Who took that picture at 2 a.m.? We were just a group of friends chasing the last bits of summer. Sedona had been on our bucket list for years. It's red rocks, mystical energy, all that new age stuff. We didn't come here looking for ghosts or anything. We came for the views, for the fresh air, for one final road trip before college started again and we all got swallowed back into deadlines and cafeterias. There were 5 of us. Me, my roommate Carter, our friends Jess and Mateo, and Jess's cousin Lily, who tagged along last minute. We booked a small Airbnb cabin tucked between 2 cliffs. The nearest neighbors were at least a mile away. No streetlights, just stars. It was the kind of place influencers would post photos from and call it healing. And for a while, it was. The first few nights were uneventful. Hikes, campfire food, long talks about nothing. No one had real signal, so we stayed off our phones. Except to take pictures, of course. Jess took hundreds. Sunsets, trail markers, even our shoes lined up at the cabin door. She said she was going to post a full photo dump when we got back to civilization. Her camera roll was sacred. Then, one morning, everything changed. I woke up to Carter's voice calling from the living room. It was just past 7 a.m., the light barely creeping in through the blinds. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Come look at this." I thought maybe a raccoon had gotten into the trash or something. I dragged myself out of bed and followed him to the couch, where he was staring at Jess's phone. She sat next to him, pale, silent, holding the device with both hands like it might burn her. "What is it?" I asked. Jess didn't speak. She just turned the phone toward me. It was a photo. All 5 of us standing in front of the cabin porch. Our faces were blank, eyes distant. The sky above us was a strange orange-red, like the sun was setting, but we hadn't been outside during sunset. The timestamp said 2:13 a.m. We were all asleep at that time. I felt my throat tighten. You edited this or something?" I asked. Jess shook her head. "I didn't take this. I don't even remember seeing this before, but it's in my camera roll, between 2 photos I actually took yesterday." Carter leaned in. "Look closer." And I did. And that's when I saw it. In the corner of the photo, standing near the edge of the woods, was a figure. Barely visible, out of focus. No features, just the suggestion of a body. Watching us. Mateo came out of his room seconds later, groggy and rubbing his eyes. He didn't need us to explain. One look at the picture and his face changed. Lily, though, reacted differently. She stared at it for a long time and then whispered, "This isn't the first time." We all turned to her. She hesitated, then walked to her bag and pulled out her phone. "Last night," she said, "I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing something outside, like shuffling. I thought it was just wind or animals, but I took a picture through the window just to be safe." She showed us the image. Trees, darkness, and one pale shape near the tree line, like someone halfway behind a trunk, peeking. "Why didn't you tell us?" Jess asked, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to sound crazy," Lily said. "The rest of the day, we tried to rationalize. We checked our phones for malware. Maybe it was some creepy photo editing prank app, but nothing explained the photo being taken from a distance, like from someone else's phone. And then there was the light, that sunset glow. It made no sense. That night, no one slept much. I stayed on the couch, phone in hand, heart pounding at every creak of the wood floor. Around 2 a.m., the porch light flickered, even though we hadn't turned it on. Carter grabbed a flashlight, and together we stepped outside. The silence was thick, unnatural. There were no crickets, no wind, just a hum in the air that seemed to press against our skin. Carter scanned the trees with the light. I aimed my phone toward the path we'd taken to hike earlier that day and snapped a few pictures. Nothing showed up at first, but when we checked again an hour later, there was a photo I didn't remember taking. It was of us, me and Carter, standing outside on the porch, holding the flashlight, taken from the same angle as the first picture. But this time, the timestamp said 1:58 a.m., before we had even gone outside. I don't remember uploading any of the photos to Facebook. None of us did. But the next day, Carter's mom called him. "Are you okay?" she asked. "What do you mean?" he said. She'd seen the photo posted on his timeline, the first one, with the caption, "Our last night." He swore he hadn't posted it. His phone had been in his pocket the whole time. We left that cabin before noon. No one spoke much on the drive back. Lily deleted every app from her phone. Jess stopped posting pictures altogether. And me? I started checking timestamps on every single photo in my gallery. I don't have some big reveal. No villain. No masked stalker we caught in the act. Just a feeling that someone, or something, watched us while we were most vulnerable. And maybe still is. What I will say is this. Be careful what your phone knows. Metadata, geotags, automated uploads, they all sound harmless until your memories start writing themselves. Some moments aren't meant to be captured. Some trips shouldn't leave souvenirs. And if you ever find a photo you didn't take, don't share it, because not every camera belongs to you. But not all ghosts appear in images. Some return in messages, words you thought you buried, conversations that continue long after they should have ended. In this next story, a man receives a text from someone who died 4 years ago, and what follows isn't a haunting. It's a quiet, methodical reminder that the past doesn't always stay silent. Story 3. She texted me from the grave. The first time I got a message from her, I thought it was a glitch. Her name, Amelia, lit up my screen like it used to, late at night when we'd send each other dumb memes or argue about which gas station had the best coffee. But Amelia had been dead for 4 years. I was there when they pulled her car from the river. I stood beside her parents at the funeral, watched them fold her hoodie into a neat square and place it beside the urn. I'd gone to therapy. I'd tried to move on, but then she messaged me. It was a single word. "Hi," sent through Facebook Messenger. Her profile picture was still the same one she'd used for years. Her at a pumpkin patch, grinning into the wind, hair covering half her face. I stared at the screen for a full minute, heart thudding so loudly it made my ears ring. My rational mind scrambled for explanations. A hacked account, someone playing a sick joke. Maybe her parents had logged in, trying to feel close to her, but that didn't make sense either. They weren't the kind of people who touch technology unless absolutely necessary. I didn't respond. Instead, I clicked on her profile. It hadn't changed since she died. Same photos, same posts, but there was something new, an update I hadn't noticed before. A photo posted 3 hours ago. It was of me, taken from behind. I was walking out of the coffee shop I went to every Thursday morning before work. The caption simply read, "He still goes there." That was the moment the air left my lungs. The next day, I filed a report to Facebook. I said the account of a deceased friend had been compromised. They sent me a generic reply, thanking me for my concern and telling me they would look into it. But the account stayed active. 2 days later, another post appeared. A screenshot of a private conversation we'd had years ago. One I didn't even remember until I saw it. In it, I had told her, "Sometimes I think you'll outlive me." Her reply back then had been, "Not a chance." The post caption was, "Still true." I started having trouble sleeping. I kept the lights on. I double-checked my locks. I covered the webcam on my laptop, but the messages didn't stop. Sometimes they were short, just an emoji or a photo from years ago. Other times they were more direct. She would describe what I was wearing, mention the time I left the apartment. One message said, "You look tired today. Want coffee?" My best friend, Marcus, thought I was losing it. He told me to get off Facebook, told me it was probably a bot, an AI script gone rogue, scraping data and mimicking her tone. He even laughed about it, said maybe it was Amelia haunting me for still being single after all these years. I didn't laugh. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because deep down, I didn't want it to stop. Grief is a strange thing. It distorts your perception of normal, makes you crave what hurts. I found myself scrolling through our old chats at 3 a.m., rereading arguments and inside jokes like they were scripture. Sometimes I thought I could still hear her voice in them, the cadence, the sarcasm, the warmth. Sometimes I forgot she was gone, and sometimes I wish she wasn't. Then the real twist came. One night, I got a friend request from a new account. No profile picture, just the name. No mutuals, no posts. Just that same red notification sitting at the top of my screen like a warning light. I ignored it. The next morning, I found a message in my inbox, not from the E account, but from Amelia again. It read, "Why didn't you let her in?" That's when I lost it. I called Marcus. I asked him to come over. I couldn't be alone anymore. When he arrived, I showed him everything. The photos, the messages, the profile. His face went pale. "Dude," he said, voice low, This is beyond messed up." He offered to take a look at the back end. He was good with tech. Used to work in cybersecurity. He logged into her account from my computer and traced the last IP logins. There was a location ping, recent and close. Too close. Less than 5 miles from where I lived. Then another and another, all clustered around my neighborhood. One even pinged at the intersection outside my building at 2:11 a.m. "This is real," he said, staring at the screen. The next night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor near the window, watching the streetlights shift across the parked cars. I waited for movement, a shadow, anything. Just after 2 a.m., my phone vibrated. A new message. "I'm cold." That was it. I stood, walked to the door, opened it. No one was there, just the soft breeze of the hallway. I stepped out, heart in my throat. Then I heard it, faint but unmistakable. A notification ping, from behind me, from my own apartment. I turned around slowly. My laptop was open. I hadn't left it that way. On the screen was a new message window, blinking. Another message appeared. "You never said goodbye." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, reading those 4 words over and over. And somehow, in all the fear and confusion and grief, I understood something. This wasn't about ghosts or hackers. It wasn't about tech or algorithms. It was about memory. About the way we keep people alive through stories, through pixels, through status updates that refuse to fade. Maybe Amelia was gone. Maybe not. Maybe I'd never know for sure. But one thing had become clear. What we share online doesn't die when we do. It lingers. It haunts. And sometimes it answers back. If you're still posting pictures, tagging locations, sharing moments that feel too private for strangers, pause. Ask yourself who might still be watching. Or worse, who might be waiting to be remembered. Because the dead don't always want to be forgotten. Sometimes they just want you to say goodbye. We often invite strangers into our lives with the click of a button. A sale, a meeting, a transaction we tell ourselves is simple. But in this next story, one woman learns that selling a table might have opened her home to something else. Something that paid in full and still came back. Story 4. He came back after the sale. I've sold plenty of things on Facebook Marketplace. Old coffee makers, bikes that never got used, a TV that started buzzing too loud during quiet scenes. I never thought much of it, just a way to declutter and make a little cash. That's all it was supposed to be the day I sold the dining table. It was a solid piece of furniture, oak, heavy, with 6 matching chairs. I inherited it from my aunt when she moved into assisted living, and for a while, I thought I'd keep it. But living alone in a 2-bedroom duplex in Sacramento didn't leave much space for sentimentality. So I listed it, took a few well-lit photos, posted them in the morning, and by noon, I had 3 interested buyers. The guy I chose messaged me first, said his name was Ty, no last name, just a gray profile picture and a string of short, polite messages. He asked if he could come see the table that evening. I agreed. He arrived around 6:30 p.m. in a white pickup with tinted windows. Looked mid-30s, maybe older, with a scruffy beard and the kind of quiet that made you unsure if he was shy or just watching you too closely. He didn't say much while looking at the table, just nodded a few times, ran a hand along the surface, sat briefly in one of the chairs. Then he said, "I'll take it. No haggling." He paid in cash, exact amount. We carried the pieces out together, loading them into the back of his truck. He thanked me, said, "You have a nice place," then left. I remember locking the door behind him, standing in the quiet afterward, feeling the odd emptiness of a room that had just lost its purpose. That night, I went to bed early. The day had been uneventful, and my body was tired in that low-burning way that happens after moving heavy things. I fell asleep watching an old documentary, the volume barely audible. But something woke me around 3 a.m. At first, I thought it was a dream. A knock. Not loud, just a tap, 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 like knuckles brushing against wood. I sat up, confused, heart already racing before I even understood why. The knocking came again, this time more insistent. I crept out of bed and walked to the front door. Peered through the peephole, no one. But when I opened the door, hesitantly, stupidly, there was something on the welcome mat. A single chair, one of the 6 that had been part of the dining set. Identical. Same scratch on the right leg. Same burn mark near the seat edge from when my aunt dropped a lit cigarette during Thanksgiving. I froze. Had he changed his mind? Dropped it off without saying anything? But why at 3 in the morning? I brought the chair inside, locked the door again, double-checked the windows. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I messaged Ty. No response. I checked his profile. It was gone. Completely deleted. No trace of our messages. It was as if he'd never existed. By mid-afternoon, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined it, that maybe I got scammed somehow or mixed up buyers. But then, just after sunset, I noticed the porch light flicker. Not the bulb, just the power, like someone had messed with the breaker. I went outside. Nothing seemed disturbed. But when I turned back to go inside, I saw something through the front window. Someone had set the table. The chair from last night was now at the center of my dining nook. Plates I hadn't used in months were stacked neatly. A fork, a knife, a folded napkin. And in the middle of the table, my aunt's old ceramic salt shaker. The one that always whistled when you turned it upside down. It had been packed away in a box in the garage. I stood frozen on the porch, watching that eerie, silent display. I hadn't done that. No one had keys. There were no signs of forced entry, but someone had been inside. I didn't call the police. I don't know why. Maybe part of me thought they wouldn't believe me. Maybe part of me didn't want to explain why I'd let a stranger into my home the day before. That night, I slept on the couch with the lights on. No knocks came, no flickering, nothing moved. But when I woke up the next morning, the remaining 5 chairs were lined up neatly outside my door. Every single one. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember pulling them inside. But there they were, stacked carefully. No dust, no damage. Just waiting. The days that followed blurred together. I stopped going to work, canceled plans, shut off my phone. Every time I left a room, something would shift. A chair pulled out. A plate moved. The smell of cologne I didn't own lingering in the hallway. And at night, the knock started again. Always soft. Always just after 3 a.m. I never saw anyone. Never caught movement on my security camera. Just static during the exact minutes the noise occurred. The system always recovered after. Almost like it had never glitched at all. The final straw came a week later. I was sitting at the table. Yes, I had put it all back in place, part resignation, part desperation to understand, when a Facebook notification lit up my laptop screen. A new listing, dining table, oak, 6 chairs, pickup only. The seller's name was Ty, and the photo? It was my house. Taken from outside, through the window, exactly where I was sitting. My hand shook as I reached for the mouse. The listing vanished before I could click. Just disappeared. I stared at the screen until it went black from inactivity. I moved out the next day, left the furniture behind, even the bed. Packed a suitcase and crashed at a friend's place until I found a new apartment in a different part of the city. I never logged into Marketplace again. Never sold another thing online. I still think about that table, about how easily I invited a stranger in, how eager I was to make a quick sale, no questions asked. I think about what I gave away without realizing it. It wasn't just wood and chairs. It was access, a footprint, a familiarity that someone used to come back. So if you're listing something online, take a second look. Blur your background. Meet in public. Don't give out your address unless you absolutely have to. And whatever you do, don't let the buyer linger. Because sometimes they're not done with you, even after the sale. Grief has a way of making us linger. We scroll through old memories, visit old pages, replay conversations in our heads. But what if the person we're remembering remembers us back? In the next story, a man attends a funeral and finds himself tagged by someone who shouldn't have a camera or an account. Story 5. I was tagged at my friend's funeral. New Orleans in October always had a strange weight in the air. The kind of humidity that hung just behind your ears and made you feel like you were walking through memory instead of weather. I hadn't been back in years. Not since college. Not since Jamie and I drifted apart without meaning to. But when I got the message from his sister, he's gone. The service is Friday. I booked a flight without thinking. I owed him that much. The funeral home was tucked into a quiet corner of the French Quarter. A pale building with stained glass windows and gas lanterns that flickered in daylight. Jamie would have hated it. He was never the buttoned-up type. We used to joke that he'd prefer a jazz parade over a coffin. And yet, there he was. Or at least the idea of him. The urn sat at the front of the chapel, surrounded by white lilies and framed photos from different stages of his life. None of them included me. There were maybe 30 people in attendance. Family, co-workers, a few distant cousins I didn't recognize. I stood in the back, hands clasped, unsure where I belonged. The room felt too still, like even the air had stopped moving to accommodate the absence. After the service, I stepped outside and took a walk around the block, trying to clear my head. That's when my phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. I pulled it out, instinctively, not expecting anything, but what I saw made my stomach drop. You've been tagged in a photo. The location was marked as St. Martin's Funeral Home. The timestamp was from 20 minutes earlier. My breath caught in my throat as I opened the tag. It was a picture of me, standing at the back of the chapel, head slightly bowed, hands in my coat pockets. But I hadn't seen anyone take it. I hadn't heard a shudder or noticed a phone raised. And the angle, it was taken from the front of the room, from where the urn sat. The caption read, "You finally showed up." I stood frozen on the sidewalk, cars passing in lazy waves behind me. It felt like my heart was thudding somewhere outside my body. I tapped the profile that posted the image. It was named JM, with no profile picture, no other posts, no friends. Just that one photo, just that one tag. I tried to report it, but the option was grayed out. I refreshed. Nothing. When I checked again 5 minutes later, the profile had disappeared. I didn't tell anyone. What was there to say? That I'd been tagged by a ghost? That my dead friend had somehow posted a photo from his own funeral? I flew back to Philadelphia that night, too restless to stay longer. But I couldn't shake the feeling. It clung to me like the aftertaste of a bad dream. I kept thinking back to our last conversation, years ago. We'd fought over something stupid, money, roommates, pride. I couldn't even remember the details, only that we never made it right. Over the next few days, more photos appeared. One showed me walking into my apartment building, taken from across the street. Another captured me sitting alone in a diner, coffee half finished, reading the same book Jamie once borrowed and never returned. Every time, the caption felt like it came from him. You still read that crap. You look tired. You never said goodbye. Each post came from a different account. No mutual friends. No history. And every time I tried to report or block them, they vanished before I could act. I stopped sleeping. I started checking every reflection. Shop windows, car mirrors, puddles on the sidewalk, half expecting to see someone standing behind me, watching, waiting. I deleted the Facebook app. That didn't help. The messages kept coming through email, through burner accounts, through shared photo memories I didn't even know were saved. The worst one came exactly 1 week after the funeral. I woke up to a notification. You have memories with Jamie Martin today. It was a photo I had never seen before. Me and Jamie sitting on the roof of our college dorm. He was holding a cigarette between his teeth, grinning. I looked like I was mid-laugh. The background showed a sky turning orange with sunset. The problem was, I didn't remember that moment. We had sat on that roof 100 times, sure, but I had no memory of that photo being taken, and Jamie had never uploaded it. I checked all our old albums. It wasn't there. Below the photo was a new comment. This is my favorite one. My chest tightened like a fist around my lungs. I clicked on the commenter. Another blank account. One mutual friend. Me. I scrolled down and found one post, dated years earlier. It was a quote we used to say to each other when things got hard. It's not about holding on. It's about not disappearing. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But all I felt was this hollow, aching pressure behind my eyes. Grief wasn't supposed to echo like this. It wasn't supposed to log in, tag you, and leave reminders in places you've forgotten to look. Later that day, I went through Jamie's old messages. Buried near the end was a draft, a message he never sent. It read, "I miss you, man. I wish we'd talked more." The timestamp was from 2 days before his accident. I printed it, folded it, slid it into the back of the book he once borrowed. I don't know if Jamie's ghost was real. I don't know if the internet was glitching, or if someone with a cruel sense of humor was using his name to mess with me. But something about it felt too specific, too intimate. And maybe it wasn't about answers. Maybe it was about closure. About finally saying the things we never said while we still had time. If you've lost someone and their Facebook page still lingers in your friends list, don't ignore it. Don't treat it like a digital grave. Read it. Remember them. Say what you need to say, because silence doesn't keep the dead away. It just gives them a reason to speak first. Sometimes we don't click, join. Sometimes we're added without knowing, and once you're in, you may not be able to leave. Our next story explores the unnerving grip of an online group that knows your habits, your thoughts, your fears, and refuses to let go. Story 6. I can't leave this group. I joined the Facebook group on a whim. It was called the Network of Knowing, and the name alone should have been enough of a red flag. But someone I vaguely knew, an old co-worker from Boise, had liked a post, and the algorithm served it to me like a secret. The group was private, invite only, yet somehow I'd been added without ever accepting. At first, I thought it was just another self-help echo chamber. Quotes in pastel fonts, photos of waterfalls, captions like, "You are the path," harmless, or so it seemed. I didn't interact, just scrolled, watched. The posts were strangely specific. One would mention a feeling of dread before bed, something I had just experienced. Another talked about dreams of a man with no face, a dream I'd had since I was 12. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence, the kind of eerie overlap that's bound to happen when you feed your mind the same online diet as thousands of others. But then came the post about the light outside, a photo of a dim porch, taken at night from inside a house. The caption read, "If the light flickers 3 times, don't open the door." My porch light had been flickering for the past 2 nights. I wanted to leave the group. I clicked the 3 dots at the top right. The menu appeared, report group, unfollow group, turn off notifications. But the leave group option was missing. I thought it was a glitch. Closed the app, tried again on my laptop. Still nothing. So I ignored it. But the posts kept coming, and they kept getting closer. One evening, a new post appeared. A photo of a handwritten grocery list. My grocery list. Same pen, same handwriting, even the smudge on the bottom where my thumb had dragged ink. It hadn't been posted by me. The name on the post was just O. I searched the group for members. There were over 8,000, none named O. I messaged an admin. The message never sent. It hung in the inbox, grayed out, as if my words had vanished mid-flight. A few nights later, I got a direct message. No profile picture, no mutual friends. Just a message that said, "Stop trying to leave." I felt my skin pull tight across my bones. I deleted the app, uninstalled Facebook altogether, restarted my phone. The message remained, this time as a push notification that wouldn't swipe away. When I woke up the next morning, I found a post waiting for me in the group. It was a screenshot of my home screen, my apps, my wallpaper, the unread email count. A perfect image of the phone I held in my hand. The caption read, "Too late now." I started to panic. I called my sister, who lived a few miles away, told her I might be dealing with some kind of stalker. She offered to come over. She'd always been the calm one, the fixer. I heard the comfort in her voice, and for the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't completely alone in it. That night, she stayed over. We cooked, watched a dumb movie, tried to laugh it off. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to find her standing in the hallway, facing the wall, perfectly still. "Sarah?" I whispered. She didn't respond. I approached slowly. She was staring at a photo taped to the wall, a photo that hadn't been there before. It showed the 2 of us sitting on the couch earlier that night, taken from behind. I didn't own a camera. I hadn't used a webcam in years. Sarah left first thing in the morning. She wouldn't tell me why. She didn't answer my texts afterward. But later that day, I got a new message from the group. "She doesn't belong. You do." I tried everything after that. Factory reset, new phone, new account under a fake name, new laptop even. The group always found me. Within hours of logging in, I'd be re-added. A new post would appear. A photo from childhood. A note I wrote years ago. An old voicemail, transcribed and captioned under my name. The post began to bleed into reality. I'd see my own handwriting appear on mirrors. Words from the group's daily mantras. You are chosen. The no one watches. Don't resist. Sometimes I'd hear the faint chime of a notification even when my phone was off. Once, I turned around and saw the Facebook icon briefly flash across my TV screen. The app wasn't even installed. But the worst moment came 3 weeks in when I found the envelope. No return address, just a symbol I recognized from the group, a circle with an eye in the center. Inside was a printed screenshot, a photo of me, asleep, my mouth slightly open, my hand resting on my chest. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of my nightstand lamp. The timestamp, 3:33 a.m. I hadn't moved in days. My fridge emptied. My inbox overflowed. The only light in the house came from the screen. I had become part of the group's rhythm. The posts now predicted my moods before I felt them. One even said, "You'll try to warn someone today. Don't bother." I hadn't told anyone yet, but I was going to, and after reading that, I didn't. I started to believe that maybe I wasn't added by accident. Maybe I was supposed to be there. Maybe the group wasn't a group at all, but something else. A presence, a pattern, something ancient dressed up in digital clothes. Maybe it didn't matter if I left, because maybe I never really could, and maybe neither can you, because here's the thing. If you've ever been added to a group you don't remember joining, if a post has ever spoken too directly to you, if a stranger's comment made you pause just long enough to feel watched, maybe it wasn't just coincidence. Maybe that's how it begins. So check your groups tonight. Scroll deep. See what's waiting. And if you see one called the Network of Knowing, don't open it. Don't look inside. And above all, don't try to leave. But the most unsettling distortions aren't always loud. They're subtle, incremental. A child's face slightly changed in a photo. A memory updated by something that claims to know you better than you know yourself. In our next story, a sister begins to notice that her nephew's smile isn't the one she remembers, and Facebook might be rewriting who he is. Story 7. Facebook changed her face. My sister always loved posting pictures. Birthdays, breakfasts, bath time, it didn't matter. If her son so much as blinked in a funny way, it ended up on her feed. At first, I found it endearing. She was proud. She loved being a mother. And in our neighborhood in Germantown, Philadelphia, where people still waved from porches and kids played on cracked sidewalks, it felt safe, familiar, harmless. The photos had a rhythm to them. First steps in the hallway by the bookshelf. Sunday giggles on the faded blue couch. Look who's up early, with sleepy eyes and messy hair. Most people left heart emojis or quick comments. Nothing strange, nothing alarming. Until one day, the comments started to shift. It began with a post from 3 years prior, resurfaced by Facebook's memory feature. The photo showed her son holding a plastic dinosaur, mid-roar, eyes lit with joy. But now there was a new comment below it, from someone we didn't know. The name was generic, just Marie L., and the profile picture was a low-res photo of a flower. The comment read, "His smile hasn't changed a bit." It felt off. Not creepy, just too familiar. My sister shrugged it off. "Probably someone I met in one of the parenting groups," she said. They all blur together. But then another photo resurfaced, a more recent one. Her son standing by the backyard fence, wearing his favorite red raincoat. A new comment appeared. "Still loves that coat." That's when I started paying attention. I clicked the commenter's profile. Barely anything there. No friends listed, no mutuals. Just a handful of random likes, mostly old nursery rhyme pages and child psychology articles. The account had only been created a few months ago. Could be a bot, I suggested. My sister hesitated, then nodded. Maybe. A week later, a new memory notification appeared. It was a photo I had taken. I remembered because I had snapped it while babysitting. Her son had fallen asleep in a pile of picture books, one sock off, mouth slightly open. But when I looked closely at the image now, something felt wrong. The face was different. Not drastically. Not enough for someone unfamiliar to notice, but enough that I knew. The eyebrows had a sharper arch. The nose was thinner. The jawline more defined. It wasn't how he had looked that day. I pulled up the original photo from my own gallery. Side by side, the difference was undeniable. Facebook had altered the image. I confronted my sister. She looked exhausted. She hadn't been sleeping well. "You edited this?" I asked. She frowned, shook her head. "No, why would I?" We tried to re-upload the photo. Same result. The platform seemed to enhance it automatically, smoothing out the features, subtly reshaping them. It didn't stop there. Every new memory that appeared began to show small changes. At first, it was just his face. Less baby fat, eyes slightly larger, expressions more curated. Then his clothes changed. Colors grew more vivid. Logos disappeared. Background objects blurred as if the algorithm had decided what was worthy of focus. Even his smile changed. It was no longer toothy and raw. It became balanced, perfect. The kind of smile you'd see in stock photos. Marketable, artificial. We contacted Facebook support. Their reply was vague. Automated responses about visual optimization features and how memories might be updated to improve user experience. They offered no opt-out, no reversals. My sister grew distant. She stopped posting, deleted old albums. She didn't want to see the memories anymore, but the damage had already been done. One day, her son walked up to her phone and stared at a resurfaced image. He frowned. "That's not me," he said. She asked what he meant. He pointed to the screen. "I don't remember being there. I don't remember that face. It broke something in her." She deactivated her account that night, asked me to help her clear every trace she could from the internet. It wasn't just about safety anymore. It was about control, about identity, about watching a version of your child drift further away from who they actually are. But then the worst part came. A few weeks later, she received a friend request from a profile named Mom of Ben. The profile photo was her son, only older, maybe 6 or 7. He was only 4 at the time. We opened the page together. It was filled with photos, all of him, dozens of them. Staged moments that had never happened. Him playing soccer, blowing out birthday candles on a cake we never made, standing with adults we didn't recognize. The captions were warm, parental. Ben's first game. Proud of my little man. We reported the account immediately. It disappeared within hours, but the effect lingered. That night, my sister couldn't sleep. She kept walking into her son's room just to make sure he was there. Just to watch him breathe. I sat with her in the kitchen, the clock ticking toward dawn. She asked me, what happens when he grows up and finds these fake pictures? When the internet knows more about him than he does? I didn't have an answer. We'd like to think our memories are sacred, that what we capture in a photo stays true. But when platforms begin to rewrite those moments, reshape faces, tweak colors, invent entire lives, the line between memory and manipulation dissolves. And when that line fades, what do we really own? If you're still sharing your child's face online, think carefully. Not because of strangers, not even because of safety, but because the future version of your child deserves to know who they really were. Not the polished, branded, filtered version a platform decided was best. There are some smiles no algorithm should touch, And some memories you keep offline for a reason. And finally, we reach the story where the camera never turns off, where the platform doesn't wait for you to speak, it speaks through you. Our last chapter takes you into the world of a casual streamer who thought he was just broadcasting gameplay until the stream continued while he slept. Story 8. I was streaming while I slept. I used to stream games late at night. Nothing serious, just casual playthroughs, small audience, a handful of followers who like my dry humor and terrible aim. It helped pass the time after classes, gave me a sense of connection in a world that often felt too big and too quiet. My setup was modest, a second-hand webcam, a decent mic, and a corner of my dorm room lit by string lights and the blue glow of my monitor. One Tuesday night, I fell asleep without logging out of my streaming dashboard. I'd been up late, playing a puzzle game that dragged longer than expected. My last memory was setting my headset down, rubbing my eyes and thinking I'd shut everything off in the morning. But that morning, I woke up to nearly 24 new messages, some from mutuals, others from strangers I didn't recognize. Most said the same thing. That was wild. Are you okay? Dude, what the hell? Confused, I opened my Twitch account. There it was, a 6-hour stream, archived automatically. The title had been changed to Midnight Thoughts. I hadn't named it that. I hit play. The footage started normally enough. Me yawning, leaving the chair, the screen idling. Then, the feed continued. The webcam stayed on. The mic remained active. What followed was hours of me sleeping in bed, tossing occasionally, breathing softly, wrapped in blankets. But that wasn't the strange part. What unsettled me, truly, deeply unsettled me, was the movement, not mine. The camera was fixed on my desk, angled toward the bed. I had left it that way. But halfway through the stream, sometime around 3:17 a.m., the angle shifted slightly, as if the camera had been moved, not bumped, adjusted, centered on me. And then there was the whisper. At first, I thought it was interference, white noise, but when I turned the volume up, I heard it, a voice, soft, distant, layered under the hum of the fan, saying, "He doesn't know." I paused the video, replayed it, over and over, same timestamp, same voice. I lived alone, no roommates, no visitors. No one had access to my dorm except me and campus security, and even they didn't come unless there was a noise complaint or a fire alarm. Still shaken, I checked my Facebook notifications. A new post had been shared to my wall overnight. The title, Sleep Stream Debut. The video embedded was the exact Twitch recording. The poster, my own account, but I hadn't shared it. I checked my activity log. No sign of a manual post. It was as if the platform had decided to share it for me. I deleted the post immediately, changed my passwords, set up two-factor authentication, told myself it was a weird glitch, an automation gone wrong. That night, I logged out of every account and unplugged the webcam, just in case. The next morning, I woke up to find the webcam plugged back in. It faced me directly. And there was a new video in my files, unlisted, time-stamped 2:41 a.m., just 30 seconds long. A close-up of my face, asleep, my eyes fluttering beneath the lids. The sound of breathing, mine, but layered with something else, like another breath, just a half second out of sync, as if someone else had been beside me, breathing with me. I left campus that weekend, went home. I needed a reset, but the digital trail followed. A new message from someone I didn't know appeared in my inbox. "Don't unplug us again." That was the exact phrasing, us. As if the camera, the platform, the stream, they were all part of something collective, something aware. I stopped streaming, stopped posting, stopped logging in. but the messages continued. Now they came in more creative forms. An email draft I never typed. A Spotify playlist titled For When You're Awake at 3 a.m., full of static-filled ambient tracks I'd never heard. One day, I found a Google Doc on my drive, a transcription of my sleep minute by minute. Each line marked with soft descriptions. Turns over, whispers unintelligibly, smiles, stops breathing for 3 seconds. I hadn't written any of it. The final straw came during a visit to my childhood home. I brought my old laptop to reset it, wipe everything. Halfway through the process, the screen flickered. A new window popped up, a single sentence typed across the top. If you stop streaming, we stop existing. I stared at it, heart racing, palms sweating. Then, as if answering my fear, another line appeared. You made us real. You can't undo that. It's hard to explain the kind of existential panic that sets in when your technology starts behaving like something sentient. Not evil, not even angry, just dependent, needy, like a child you never meant to raise. I wiped the laptop anyway, tossed the webcam, deleted every account I could remember. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, my phone lights up without reason. No notification, just the screen, glowing softly, facing toward me. And once, just once, I swear I heard it breathe. Here's what I know now. Streaming doesn't end when you hit stop. Social platforms don't forget you just because you log out. Sometimes, the version of you that lives online, your habits, your expressions, your voice, takes on a life of its own. A shadow you can't see. A self that doesn't need your permission anymore. If you stream, be careful. Not because of who's watching, but because of what you've invited in. What you've kept fed. What you've made feel real. Because once it's awake, it doesn't want you to sleep. 8 stories, 8 warnings. Each one different, but threaded by the same quiet truth. What we share can change us, and what we leave behind online might not stay behind at all. If these stories unsettled you, it's not because they're impossible. It's because they're already too close. If you made it this far, thank you for staying. Not everyone does. Not everyone can. There's something about these stories, their silence, their subtlety, their refusal to scream, that lingers a little too long after the screen goes dark. And that's the point. Each of these stories came from a single moment of trust. Trust in a stranger, a camera, an algorithm, or even just a memory. But when those moments spiral, when a simple upload becomes a haunting, when a photo becomes a lie, when a voice you loved becomes a thing you fear, what's left? Maybe it's not about being watched. Maybe it's about being archived. Because once something lives online, it doesn't really die. It echoes, it morphs, it gets re-tagged, re-uploaded, re-shared by forces we can't see. And sometimes it grows teeth. This isn't just about Facebook. It's about the way we've blurred ourselves into our devices. The way we've made homes and systems that can't love us back. We've traded privacy for connection, authenticity for likes, grief for glossy timelines. And somewhere in the middle of all that, we've left doors open we didn't mean to. If any of these stories felt familiar, even in the smallest way, don't ignore that. Maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. Maybe it was a message. And if you ever find yourself in a picture you didn't take, a memory you don't recall, or a story that feels just a little too much like yours, pause. Before you hit share, ask yourself who's still watching and who's waiting to reply.